Hi guys, thank you for stopping by the channel. I've returned to making some PvP build videos after, I think almost 2 years, I think. I think my last build video was around Greymoor Stonethorn, so that's a long time ago. That's before hybridization, before CP 2.0 as well. But anyway, today I'd like to share with you a stamina Dragonknight build that I've been using recently and I've been enjoying a lot. It's it's a pressure build, primarily using a variety of status effects and dots to wear down enemies before going for the kill. It's pretty powerful actually, and it's very fun to play. It I think takes inspiration from what I think the class set for Dragonknight was intended to be, which is to sort of wear enemies down before going in for the kill. Before anyone asks, I'm not using Pyrebrand. It's a very strong set, but unfortunately it's getting nerfed in the next patch. So instead we are future-proofing this build a bit and taking into account the changes coming with update 44. So let's begin. I'm just going to head over to the armory station and we can go through what we've got. So this is the build here. So we are using 5 pieces of Serpent's Disdain on the body, with 5 pieces of Unleashed Terror on the front bar, with 2 pieces of Marslock as the monster set, and the Vatishran Ice Staff on the back bar. We are an Imperial. We are not a Vampire. Sorry, we're not Imperial. We are a Nord here. We are Nord. We are not a Vampire, and we're using the Lover Mundus Stone. And most of our points are into health, with a couple of points into stamina. Just to go through that in a bit more detail, so try and follow this exactly if you can, because it's quite important. So on the front bar we're using an Unleashed Mace, Nirnhoned with the Disease damage enchant. So Unleashed Terror gives you weapon damage, stamina, and then whenever you deal damage with a gap closer, it does a powerful dot over 10 seconds, but importantly every tick of the dot triggers the hemorrhaging status effects. And when you pair this alongside the Serpent's Disdain set that we have, that's going to be 16 seconds of hemorrhaging with every single tick of this blue dot. We can activate this with our Chains ability and also with our Dragon Leap as well. Important to note also that the cooldown of 10 seconds is per target, so you can actually apply this to every single opponent, which is very strong. So Nirnhoned Disease damage, and then charged with Absorb Magicka. The disease glyph here gives us the diseased status effect, and the Absorb Magicka enchant here gives us the Magicka Steel enchant, which helps with our Magicka sustain, which is very important as well. On the back bar, run a charged Perfected Ice Staff and use the Absorb Stamina enchant. This is very important because this is almost guaranteed to give us the Sundered status effect, which gives us Minor Breach with a 20-second uptime whenever we do a light attack and trigger this enchant, so that's really important. And beyond that, the Vatishran Ice Staff gives us another powerful dot proc whenever we cast the skill at close range. Next that we're going to look at is the Serpent's Disdain. This increases the duration of status effects by 16 seconds. This is very evident with the dot-based status effects, namely poison, bleeding, and burning. But this also extends the minor debuffs that you get from the other status effects as well. So for example, when the elemental susceptibility triggers chilled, then the minor maim from that chilled will last a full 20 seconds. Similar with the minor vulnerability from the shock, from the concussed, the minor defile from the diseased, and the minor breach, as we've mentioned, from the sundered as well. So this is really, really important. So we're running this as a heavy reinforced chest, in-pen light sash, in-pen light gloves, reinforced heavy greaves, and reinforced heavy sabatons. Try and chance on everything. And then we're running 2 pieces of Marslock. So this is a very powerful set on this build in particular, because the dot from this set scales with the amount of dots we already have on the target. Not just dots, negative effects in general, but we, with a couple of button presses, very quickly apply a vast amount of dots on the enemy. So this ends up being very strong. So we have this as a in-pen medium helmet and in-pen heavy shoulders. And then for the rings, for the jewelry, we're running Unleashed Amulet Swift with a reduced magicka cost, Unleashed Ring Infused Weapon Damage, and save again. Moving on to the skills, so let's start on the back bar because that's where we typically start fights off. So we are running Elemental Susceptibility. This gives us basically permanent uptime on Burning, Minor Maim, and Minor Vulnerability, and it's a free skill. It's very important. It's got a long range, which gets extended in PvP. Try and put this on as many targets as you can before you go in for an engagement. It just will work to sort of start to wear down the enemies and eat through their hot abilities. Hardened Armor is our armor skill. It gives us a nice damage shield, and it also is important because the Draconic Burning Heart passive that gives us 12% extra healing received is active while this is up. It's only got a 20-second duration, unfortunately, so you do need to cast it quite often. Cinderstorm is a very powerful ground-based healing over time ability. This is very cheap because it's a per second cost, and we're using a magicka cost reduction glyph on one of our jewelry pieces. We can keep this up basically indefinitely, which is excellent. And while we're in here, we're getting significant healing, and it allows us very much to hold our ground against multiple targets, which is important because we need time for our dots to work, and we want to be sort of pressuring down their resources before going in for the kill. So this is very important. By casting this, you also get your Minor Brutality from the Mountain's Blessing passive as well. Then we're using Healing Soul as our main burst heal. We're using the signature script that gives us the Major Vitality, so it increases all of our healing for 10 seconds, which is very strong. And we're also using the affix script that gives us some resources back, which makes this a lot easier to sustain. This is very powerful. It's got the same tooltip as Coag, generally speaking, but it also can heal allies, which is important, and the Major Vitality is very strong as well. Next skill is Flames of Oblivion. This is something that we can just cast on the back bar, and it will constantly do damage over time, and it also gives us our important major crit buff. And then Barrier on the back bar, we're not really using this to cast. This is just here in order to give us the extra magicka from the magicka aid, from the support skill, just to help us sustain our magicka a bit on the back bar. You can also put Magma Shell here, or Corrosive if you want. Corrosive's probably not as effective, but Magma Shell is a good sort of oh crap button. But Barrier, I think, works better overall. Moving on to the front bar, we're running Venomous Claw. So this is our source of the poison stat effect. This is guaranteed with the initial hit, and this is a very powerful poison damage over time effect that gets stronger the longer it lasts. So try not to reapply this on the same target too many times, but just leave this to work, and yeah, it will definitely pay dividends. It's quite cheap as well. Chains of Devastation is our gap closer. We use this to proc our Unleashed Tower set on single targets. It can't be dodged or reflected, which is very good, and it also gives us Major Berserk for 4 seconds after casting, which ties in perfectly with our burst window. Molten Whip is our main spammable, but it's also our sort of burst damage, direct damage skill when we don't have our ultimate ready, and it gets more powerful if you've cast Flames of Oblivion, Venomous Claw, and Chains of Devastation beforehand, which we typically will have, so this works very well. Shattering Rocks is our stun. Again, like I mentioned, this is a pressure build, so it wears down enemies before going in for the kill. This is a very reliable, very powerful stun, can't be blocked or dodged, and it also heals you for a nice amount when it finishes. So this is very effective at wearing away the target's stamina. And then Resolving Vigor is our minor armor buff and also a good heal over time. And Take Flight is our ultimate. The tooltip's a bit low at the moment, but trust me, this hits very hard, especially when we have all the penetration from one of the CP passives. We're obviously missing a couple of important buffs. Primarily, we're missing a source of speed beyond our chains, and also Major Vitality as well. So our main potion here is the Essence of Speed, which gives us Expedition, Brutality, and Endurance. I think this is Blessed Thistle, Dragonthorn, and the Mirror's Rot, if I remember correctly. But essentially, yeah, use this most of the time to keep your major weapon damage buff up. I also have Essence of Detection, which is good against Nightblades. This gives you the major sorcery buff, which still, does increase your damage by 20%. But because we get the minor brutality from Dragonknight, preferably you want to be using the one that gives you major brutality. But still use this against Nightblades if you need to. Our food is the Orzoga smoked bear haunch, and just looking at the stats quickly, we've got 35k maximum health, and then 16k max magicka, and about 25k max stamina. Our recoveries seem low at the moment, but actually we can sustain absolutely fine because we are proccing burning and poison so frequently. So our combustion passive is basically giving us stuff on cooldown, which is fantastic. The penetration here is also worth looking at. So we've got about 8k pen here. We'll get another 9k pen from the elemental susceptibility and also the minor breach from the absorb stamina enchant. And then just going into our CP really quickly, we have a CP here called Force of Nature, which gives us 660 penetration for every status effect your target has. Very quickly we get about 7 or 8 status effects on the target almost immediately. So this is this is like a Stone's Favor, or like twice the tooltip of a Spinners or Spriggans. So yeah, fantastic. Combine this with our major and minor breach, and we're sitting at about 23k penetration without any Balorg shenanigans or anything like that. So that's incredibly powerful. With our armor buff up, we are sitting at almost the spell and physical resistance cap, and with our major and minor brutality, we are sitting at about nearly 5k weapon damage. So yeah, all in all, not too shabby. Next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to quickly go over the general rotation that you want to use when you're approaching a target, and I'll do it at full speed first of all, and then I'll talk through the elements as well. So when you approach, you want to make sure you've got your potion active, so you've got your major brutality buff up, you want to have your armor up, and then engage with a light attack into any susceptibility. So yeah, there you go. You can see at the top there just how many status effects are ticking. You've got the 3 stacks of hemorrhaging, you've got the major and minor brutality, you've got burning, minor maim, minor vulnerability, minor defile, you've got the poison ticking, you've got the magicka steal, you've got the basically it's a bit disgusting. If you don't have your ultimate up, you want to use the whip. We'll just do this sort of in slightly slower motion, so yeah. Make sure your self body buffs are up first of all, and then light attack Ali Sus, light attack thingy, swap chains in, light attack venomous claw, and then heavy attack to get your Marcelock to tick, and then use your burst skill. One little trick that you can do, let me just wait for it to go into cooldown, is you can actually do your Marcelock heavy attack as you're pulling in with the chains. So if you start doing that, you don't need to do a full heavy, you can just do a sort of partial charged heavy. So that's very effective as well. I think that's covering everything. It's been a while since I've done a build video. I should have some commentated gameplay now for you. We'll see this build in action. It's an absolute blast to play, and it's different from the sort of meta burst damage stuff. You very much feel like you're playing a different class, and that's what I hope to try and achieve with this channel. It's off-meta builds that are enjoyable to play, that still do well in PvP. Did we go through the rest of the CP? I don't think we did. Let's do that very quickly. Sorry about that. So yeah, Force of Nature, Deadly Aim, Ironclad, Untamed Aggression, and Boundless Fatality, Sustained by Suffering, Bastion, and Celerity. Bastion just for a bit of extra damage against shielded targets. Anyway, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy playing this. It's not too tricky to put together, and I'll see you in the gameplay clips. Thanks for checking out the channel again. Take care. Okay, so we just have a random solo BG just to show the build in action. And hopefully this can illustrate just the way the build should be used in practice. From a distance, what you want to be doing is just using your Elisas and putting it on as many targets as you can, just weakening them up, softening them up, and then going in for the kill. And just looking around, this green comes into the gauge, and again, dot him up. I see his teammate coming in quite close, quite quickly, so I leap. Try and leap whenever there's a bunch of enemies grouped up together, because then you can get your bleeding proccing on all of them. It's starting to get a little bit too hot here, and I'm a bit low on resources, so I just line of sight. What's quite useful is you can drop your corrosive, not your corrosive, sorry, your cinder storm, and because it's got a really high 70% snare, you can then use that as a kiting tool almost, and that's what I basically did there. These guys are clumped together. I dot them up and then burst them down. There's quite a few players here without too much health, so you might not get to see the full dot. This guy's beaming me and getting a bit low on health here, so I need to just duck around the corner. And again, I'm just using my Cinder Storm to snare them and kite around, and then just waiting them to come to me. Whenever you get somebody out in the open like that, you can just ulti dump them just to burst them down. But for anyone who's a bit bulkier, you would want to be using all of your dots first of all. So again, these guys are over there, and he's by himself, so I want to chains in, but he goes down again very quickly. This guy there's a warden here who has some decent dizzy swing damage, so again, I want to just make sure that he has all these things ticking on him. Essentially, you're quite survivable, and what you want to be doing is making sure that your dots are running on the enemy, and they'll focus you because they think you're playing defensively, but what they're not realizing is that they need to keep their vigor up, otherwise their health bar will just be melting. As you can see here, I'm not doing much in the way of direct damage, but this guy's permanently sitting at about half health, and he realizes actually that he's melting, so he moves away quite quickly. This bear is pissing me off slightly, so I just put some dots on him as well. And yeah, this guy that I dotted up earlier just died off screen. And I see that the greens have clumped up, so I go for a cheeky dragon leap and catch them by surprise and get them all dotted up. One thing that's underrated here is just the amount of resource pressure that you put on by putting these dots on, because people will need to keep on expending resources to cast their healing skills, and while they're healing, they can't damage you. So the dots inadvertently are also a defensive technique as well. I unfortunately timed my leap a wee bit poorly there because that guy was in his Templar healing ult, but nevertheless, because I'm dotting up all these targets, they go down quite well. These guys are here, they're grouped up, I get a nice little Marcel proc, and they managed to go down as well. So far we're doing pretty well. These greens, unfortunately, are just coming one by one. Unfortunate for them, it just means that they can just get focused on quite quickly. And that sorcerer streaks away, and I'm not able to get my full burst combo off on him. But again, what I'm trying to do is whenever I'm out of the front line, I am just making sure that my Elisus is up and active on as many targets as possible. The nice thing about this build as well is you can leap on cooldown. I think one of the disadvantages with some Dragonknight builds sometimes is that you're trying to wait and build up for a big Balorg proc or wait for your corrosive, which means that you're not really making use of your battle or passive as much as you can. But if you're leaping on cooldown, then you can essentially keep the resources thing up. This guy drops a meteor on me, so I just duck behind the pillar there, take it out with a quick leap and a quick burst combo on him. Now, Templars are quite annoying with their Purify, but we put 4 negative status effects on with a single cast of Elisus, which is free, and they can only take 5 off at a time with the extended ritual, so it's actually more the synergy, the Purify synergy that their teammates use that's more annoying. Templars themselves will burn down just as quick as anybody else. And these guys, again, they're just coming one by one, and we're able to stack our dots on. Chains into this guy, he's trying to heal, but we just keep pressuring him, and then oftentimes the stun from Fossilize is the death knell for your target. Once again, as soon as we've got a couple of people on us, we can just keep moving, line of sighting, keep our heals up, make sure that they're dotted up. As soon as they're clumped together, Dragon Leap, that puts a big bleed dot on all of them, and it forces them to rethink about pressuring you. My team is nowhere to be seen with me at the moment, so I'm just, again, trying to line of sight slightly and just put pressure on one target at a time. Again, using this little pillar for a line of sight, and the red team and the greens are engaging here. This guy's been left alone, his teammates have jumped down. I see my teammate fighting a guy over there. I do a slightly cinematic leap for no real purpose other than just to get some nice burst damage up onto him. And at the same time, trying to get my Marcel up on multiple targets as well. This corridor is quite nice when you're fighting outnumbered because it's hard for enemies to focus you. But you can just see with the dots running how quickly the health bars go down. And these people that I'm not even fighting directly, they still have all my long-lasting dots running on them, so my teammates are finding it easier to fight them as well. And yeah, that's essentially it. It's quite a simple build. You know, you just want to dot things up and then take your chance to get your burst damage on. And the nice thing about a dot-based build is when you're kiting, you're still damaging them because your dots are on target, and there's such long-lasting dots. They really do work to soften up the target. It's just, you know, additional pressure that you're getting essentially for free. With just 2 or 3 button presses, we are just putting on so much lingering damage over time. And again, we're just coming to the end here and managed to finish off that guy. 1.3 million damage and 26, 0 and 8. Admittedly, this probably wasn't the highest MMR BG. I've been out of the game for a while, but it just goes to show what this build can do. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time.